Man vs. Machine is the next one, and it's a design and motion studio based in London, and it's led by Tim Swift and our next guest. And well, since 2007, it's been exploding. It's getting multinational, multi-award winning. It's a huge company. They direct and they produce fantastic branding, commercials, animation, film, and print. And one of my favorites is the new brand for Channel. Channel 4, I guess. Yeah, with all the triangles, colored triangles. I think it's beautiful. Oh, here he is, Mike! Woohoo! Mike Alderson. Yeah, we're just going to check if it's working. Welcome.
Thank you.
And just one short question, so we can also check if your mic is working. Haha, Mike. Anyway, we've got different guests, and some of them are working for ages just on one project. But especially with brands or idents or stuff like that, it's so short. You can actually make, so many different things in the same amount of time. Is that a good thing or also difficult?
I guess the main difference between us and Mikey is we work on 3, 4, sometimes 5 projects at once. Yeah, they're a lot shorter. Sometimes clients expect us to do what Mikey does in 3 minutes in 10 seconds. And then when we tell them they can't, they just ignore us. But that's the difference. We're kind of juggling a little bit more because we're trying to make as much money as we can at the same time. Yeah, I guess that's the main difference. But we do have quite a bit in common with Mike in a strange way. Although we're, corporate sellouts, we don't actually like computer graphics that look like computer graphics. We're not really interested in that. We're the tactile charm of things, which is Mikey's style, is something we try our hardest to get into the most corporate of projects. But that's a big thing for us. If it looks like a computer graphic, it's not our thing really. Some people like it.
Okay.
It's fine.
I'll leave you to it. I think everything is said.
Yeah,
so give it up for Mike Alderson.
You'll have to excuse me if you don't understand some things I say. I'm a northern scumbag. I don't speak as eloquently as Mikey, so you guys probably all speak shitloads better English than me. So if I say some weird slang word you don't understand, just shout wanker. Right. That kind of sums us up. As I was just saying, we like to be as creative as possible, but I guess what sets us apart slightly from a lot of companies who we look up to is that we love commercial work. We don't really do anything for free. We don't do art. We like commercial work, and we may as well just admit it. So that looks like we might have done that just because we like playing around with things, but truth is it was a job that got cancelled. So we stuck ManvsMachine on the end of it. But it was an MTV charts channel a couple of years ago. They rebranded the whole shebang and we got given charts, loads of, and then they cancelled the channel. So still got paid. But yeah, I mean, I kind of joke about it, but it's fucking important. No, it's just sort of, we're trying to get this balance between having a great job that we all enjoy going to every day, doing work that we think is credible, but also making a decent living out of it. We're not kind of skirting around that, that's part of the plan. So, just to give you a little bit of background about us, we are a design and motion studio in East London. I think Mikey is East London as well, so I think half the people you hear from today will probably be East London with beards. And yeah, we do commercial projects for the masses and have as much fun as possible while we do it. We started out sort of six and a half years ago, I think. And basically it was myself and Tim Swift, we were both graphic designers who'd been creative directors in the mostly broadcast branding world. And we just thought there was a slight lack of work that had equal attention paid to graphic design, composition, quality, and execution in 3D. There were some studios doing it well, but not enough, so we thought, let's start a studio who does that. Hence the name, ManvsMachine. It's just a kind of, it's a reminder that ideas and imagination should be balanced with technology. Sometimes one informs the other, sometimes the other informs the other. But it's keeping that balance. It's not, you can't ignore technology because it's super important and it's cleverer than me, but you need to obviously keep the design, imagination side of it up as well. So it's kind of a constant reminder for us. And when it's written down, it looks strong. So we think it might win us pitches when it's next to weak names. Yeah, so in 2007 we started. So it was us two graphic designers, and we found the best 3D dude we could, poached him from one of the big post houses, and that was the recipe. 2 designers, 1 3D dude who could do anything basically. And now we're 10 people, but the recipe remains the same. There's just a few more designers, a few more 3D dudes. Lots of people are both at the same time. Everybody has a slight speciality, but at the same time, everybody has to do anything that is required, whether it's emptying the bin, buying toilet roll, or making an animation. We don't have any finance or new business or PR people because we sort of strongly believe that the current project you're working on needs to be what gets you your next job. There's no need in our mind to have people running around doing things like that, especially if you're a small studio like us. But yeah, if you find out we've gone bankrupt, that's probably why we got cocky. Yeah, I mean, going back to the sort of this thing with working with mass market clients that we embrace, just because you're a small studio it doesn't mean you can't do big projects. Just because you work with serious brands doesn't mean you have to take yourself seriously either. You can still dick around. But I think most importantly to us, which the big frustration is, just because something's mainstream doesn't mean it can't be good. And that's a big frustration, and the thing that we constantly fight every day is this acceptance that Saturday night television, for example, it's mainstream shit. It doesn't matter if it looks crap. It does. And it doesn't have to look crap and be... We'd love to rebrand the X Factor or Pop Idol. We'd absolutely love to. And that's the kind of challenge that we would embrace, which I guess maybe that's what makes us a little bit different to most people. So first of all, I'm going to take you through a couple of older projects that kind of got ManvsMachine to where we are now, and then I'm going to talk about the More 4 rebrand project, which was mentioned, because that's the best example of the breadth of a single project, where all the different parts of a project we have to do, but I'll quickly whiz through a couple just to give you an idea of what we do. So first example is graphics for an event space. So this was the presentation graphics for the British Fashion Awards back in 2007. So it's all the kind of fancy pants. A building a bit like this actually, what you see there is the Royal Courts of Justice in London. So we wanted to do something that was kind of fresh, but was an extension of the architecture. So, hold on a minute. Cool, yeah. So that's an event branding example. Next example is the kind of project that kind of was a big stepping stone for us. It made America realise we existed. About half our work still is directly for the States, because I think our style maybe plays into their hands a little bit, where we still go crazy on production value, but we hopefully design things well as well. So this was the Sci-Fi rebrand and relaunch. It was quite a big deal if you're a geek, like me. So they changed it from Sci-Fi spelt properly to Sci-Fi spelt wrong. They say it was to become a more entertainment-based brand, but it was so they could merchandise stuff, because they could never own Sci-Fi spelt S-C-I-F-I, because it belongs to everybody, but this belongs to them. So it was a big rebrand relaunch in the States. I think it was the third biggest cable channel in the States or something like that. So it was a massive one to win, massive for at the time we were like 4 or 5 people, so I don't know how that happened. They never met us, they thought we were a big company. Which, yeah, I think a lot of clients who've not met us honestly think we're quite a big company, so we never tell them we're not. But yeah, this is some broadcast branding, which is our main line of work, which we did a good few years ago. Yeah, that's a good example of the sort of time frames we have to work in sometimes. So I think I don't know, I can't remember, 6 seconds or something each. So yeah, sometimes you cram an awful lot into a short amount of time, but it's fun. It's part of the fun. Next example is work direct for a brand, which is Xbox in this case. There's another example of things we do, and again, a good example of wedging as much crap as you can into 10 seconds. That felt longer than 10 seconds, didn't it? But it wasn't. That's a good few years ago now, and we're actually currently secretly working on the new Xbox branding back at the studio. Next up is another line of work, which is TV commercials, which we don't focus too heavily on, but we like to do a couple a year just to have a little bit of variation in our lives.
Un design sensuel et racé. Un intérieur cuir, grand confort. Un système audio Bose sur mesure. Et un toit ouvrant panoramique.
Et si le plus remarquable dans les nouvelles Renault, c'était le moteur. Nouveau moteur Renault Énergie DCI 130, le plus performant de sa catégorie.
So yeah, some things are a little bit more execution heavy than idea heavy. That was a fucking nightmare, that job. But anyway, quite well paid commercials. Last little one before I get into the big job is another example of broadcast work, where this time, rather than doing the whole channel, we were just asked to do a few idents for Sky Arts, and the brief was basically embrace Britishness. So that work was the stuff that we've done over the last 5 or so years to kind of get to where we are. And this next job I'm going to talk you through is the Morpho rebrand, which was, it sums up the breadth of a single project. I'll go into a bit more detail. If it gets boring, shout wanker. But it's the ideal job for us, really, something like this, and it's the kind of job that only comes along every 5 or 6 years in the UK anyway. I think in the world we do a lot of channel branding work for different countries, but usually when you're doing a channel rebrand, it's actually a refresh. The logo isn't changing. You're kind of refreshing the architecture of the channel, if you like, but this was a full rebrand, new logo, new everything. They were shifting the channel to the brief basically was to shift the focus of the channel purely to lifestyle programs. Viewers get more out of life with Morpho. Before this rebrand, Morpho was probably one of the most credible channels on British TV. It was a documentary and current affairs channel. So a lot of people would think this is a disastrous brief, but like I say, just because it's mainstream doesn't mean it can't be cool. We got kind of excited about this as well because we do quite a lot of work for specific areas, like sci-fi is quite specific. If you're doing something for Xbox, it's quite specific. So you've got a reasonable brief and a target audience, whereas this is everybody, absolutely everybody. So lifestyle TV is cooking programs, fashion, home renovation, travel. You know, the shit you watch on Sunday when you can't be bothered going outside. And that was the good challenge. It's like, let's make this good because our grandparents are going to watch this. So it's nice to know we thought about them all the way through. But yeah, it's not a bad thing, so it's kind of exciting. So I'm going to first talk you through the pitch and then take you through the production side of it all the way up to delivery. So there's just some extracts from our pitch document, and you'll see it's quite kind of informal and scruffy, and the way we pitch things depends on the client. This was Channel 4 in the UK, so we were going physically in person to present all these ideas to them over a table, so you can be a little bit looser and scruffy and the likes with your pitch, but if you're doing something for the States, it's a whole different ball game. You have to make style frames that look better than the final job themselves. It's just the way the industry differs. But so that some of these look very rubbish, but it seems to work once you're talking to people, you can convince them. So this first route was the first of 3 routes we pitched, and it was this continuous line idea. This was more of an evolution of the previous brand, but we liked the idea that the logo was just a continuous line that never stopped moving. It's obviously not moving there, but you'll see it moving in a second. Just when we're doing a channel brand, the recipe is so simple, but that's what makes it so hard. It's find a visual device that you can own, and that's it. The rest should look after itself, but the hard part is finding that visual device. So it's as simple as, okay, you own lines. So you look into whatever all the rival channels are doing in the same territory, see what's already been taken, put that to one side, and you just find a visual device that can then, and the simpler the better, that can then roll out, and there's kind of 250 deliverables for this Morpho project when we delivered it. So it needs to be very versatile and very simple ideally, but it can be complex in execution. So the idea with this one was a single line logo. Obviously that logo's a bit rough. We like to play around with string. But yeah, just playing around with tactile approaches, show the versatility of it. And is that going to play? The movie won't play. Oh well, it was that line constantly moving anyway. Oh, there you go. Just took a while to get going. So yeah, it was this, obviously that's very rough, but it was just this idea that it never stops. It's just constantly moving, constantly moving. And we were kind of excited about this route. We thought we thought this probably stood the best chance out of all the routes because we like the idea of doing this on a large scale, kind of taking over cities and places like that with giant ropes and just taking this line concept out there. The second approach was this inverse space kind of idea where you never actually make a four, you show the space around the four, so it's slightly abstract maybe for them, but this idea that certain points of taking the skeleton of the four from the main brand, which is their mother channel, taking some points from that, we create a kind of a slightly custom four shape, and you have some points that repel, some points that attract, and it's all behaviour based. A lot of our work is kind of behaviour and dynamic based, again because of this thing that we don't like computer graphics that look too much like computers made them. So that's an example of an execution. So again, super simple idea, quite abstract, but once you've got that concept of it's the inverse space, it doesn't matter what is creating that space, it could be absolutely anything, and it becomes branding, basically. As you can see a few tests and lockups there. Very rough test just to help them understand. We didn't think they'd go for this one, and they didn't. But again, the fight we have is encouraging our clients to give their viewers a little bit more credit, or the audience, if you're working with a brand, a bit more credit. It's always so easy for them to just say, oh yeah, like it's the X Factor, so it's got to be a bit. But it doesn't have to be. And sometimes you have to reassure the client before you even start that it's not going to be shit, because they've already given in. So that's half the job. Third route was this one, and this is where we were with it. We had this logo shape, and it was, I don't know where it came from. It popped up somewhere during the pitch, and at first it was like, oh, fucking hell, that's ugly. It's like bad design or something, I don't know. But we just, after a few days, it kept popping up again. And there's something about the like unapologetic strength of it that kind of worked. And it's so different to the main Channel 4 brand. It was almost a good thing because it wasn't trying to be little brother or little sister or anything like that. It was what it was. And it was nice with the multicolour. Weirdly, nobody in the UK or no channels in the UK had taken multicolour as their kind of main brand statement, so bingo. So we did a little bit of testing with that one, and I don't know, we were split, the studio was split, whether it was horrible or amazing. We couldn't work it out. And for the pitch, we just did a few tests with it in 3D to see if it helped. Yeah. And again, some very rough tests, but kind of start to give you the idea. But it's definitely a grower, and that's how we sold this one into the client. It was like, yeah, you might not like it now, but just give it 3 days and see what happens. Loads of little tests. And yeah, we always try and cover off-screen elements, which is part of the job. Although we won't look after that after the job's delivered, we always have to supply a style guide for anything that happens off-screen. So we've got basically this picture of a billboard that we just stick stuff on. But this was exciting because it could be a physical installation. So about 4 or 5 days later, they came back and they said, let's do this. So yeah, first job we had was making the type work, which we had ignored before for the pitch because it didn't work. But we had to work it out, and it works as well as it can. But it's kind of cool. It breaks rules of graphic design, which is sort of interesting. And it's fine if you think it's bad design, good. It's strong, unapologetic. But we like it. You lock down the logo first, basically, and there's always the kind of +1 channels and the HD channels, and where we were super pleased that they let us drop the more for it confidently. We were originally pushing for it not to have more written on it at all, just that lots of triangles suggest more, but they weren't having that one. You've locked the logos down, and then you set about the task of on-screen presentation, typography, idents, OSP, fucking da-da-da. So one of the first things we did was get a font made. So this is an example of the kind of detail we go into that maybe you don't see or you don't think about when you're watching TV. And super nice font called Omnes by Darden Studio in New York, and we asked them to redraw it with a few tweaks, a few visual tweaks that we just didn't like, and also to optimize it for TV. Sometimes spacing needs to be opened up a little bit on certain characters so that you don't get any buzzing or artifacting on TV, but very, very subtle tweaks, but we really like the font as it was, so it was trying to keep as much of it as possible, but make it custom. The colour palette was locked down. This was actually really hard. We'd not done anything multicoloured before. And it was so hard, you know, when you're trying to get that thing where it looks like you've not really thought about it. It's just like, oh yeah. There must have been about 200 iterations, and I promise you that the one we ended up going with was the very first one ever from the pitch, where it was just like eyes closed. And that was the best one. We might have tweaked a few colours. I don't know why we named the colours. We must have been bored that day. And then you set about setting your nice typographic layouts and lockups, the graphic design part that I personally absolutely love doing. Setting all these rules and making sure the rules make sense. That's an example of a promo end board, but obviously there's lots of different deliverables. Once all that's set in place, we then set about just playing with motion, basically. So what's going to become our motion language for this thing? And it's a lot of this, we're aware that a lot of this stuff looks crap, but that's the whole point. It's breaking it to find out what it can't do as much as what it can do. So there's some quite obvious things in this where you're just like, yeah, that's a bit too much. It's a bit too playful at times. It becomes a bit kiddie, a bit Nickelodeon. Sometimes it's just a bit bland. So you're kind of constantly searching for this sort of little set of motions that you then make your signature motions so that you just own it. So yeah, things like that never made it. It's just a bit too much. So yeah, after all that development with the on-screen presentation system, this is a little montage of where we ended up, and as you'll see from this, I think there was 2 or 3 signature animation styles in the end. Again, it's tempting to do like 7 different animation styles just because it's good, but in the long run, these things are on air for up to 5 years sometimes, so you don't want it to be annoying, so it's better to just filter it a little bit, just have 2 or 3 that you really own. The layouts in that, as you can see, were super, super simple. Believe me, it's so much harder to get that past a client than it is to get something that's got chrome on. That's the hardest part, getting them to, they're like, is that it? You're not going to put something in that white bit over there? You're like, no. But in the end, every TV show's sponsored anyway now, so it just ends up with a big fucking logo on it. But what can you do? So that was the on-screen presentation system, and then we moved on to idents, which are usually should be the most fun part, because it's kind of like, yeah, mini commercials for the channel itself. You're your own client almost, so it's having fun with it. And contrary to what a lot of the work you saw before, where we use CG as our main weapon, and this element of this, for this it just felt right to do something that wasn't CG. It was almost us manually making what we would usually do in CG. And Channel 4 are the kind of clients who we thought we might just be able to get this past them. They were weak. So we pitched this, we said we want to make the flippers. So the theory is, again, give the viewers a little bit of credit. You don't need a logo on the idents. And they were like, yeah, you do. We were like, no, the multicoloured triangles and this flipping motion is yours now. Nobody else can have that. Nobody can touch it. So we encouraged them we just wanted to infect spaces, any environment, with these flippers. So they agreed to it. And we teamed up with Jason Bruce Studio, who are also in London, who are installation designers. So we went to them with a sketch, basically, of what we ideally wanted. It's like the brief was basically, it's a customized flip clock because it's rotating on 45 degrees. We actually screen printed all the different tiles. Actually, it's clear acrylic that's been screen printed because we could get close with the colours, but it wasn't perfect, so it wasn't good enough. So we screen printed them in the end to be the exact right colour, so it matches exactly to any screen and print materials. And yeah, Jason Bruce Studio had a certain budget. They made as many as they could in the budget. I think we ended up with 400 or 500, which then informed what sort of environments we would take them to. So again, you can see the guys doing the industrial design side of things, and we just turn up every couple of days and pretend that we'd done it. Well, they had. But yeah, there were 400 units. I've got it written down here. 23 components in each unit, so 10,000 parts to be assembled and tested, and that had to happen in 10 days. So, yeah, those guys didn't sleep much. But they were really excited about it because they do a lot of light-based design at Jason Bruce Studio, and they love doing something that's not light. Their main bugbear is that clients just want light because it looks expensive. So yeah, we went for it. It was kind of pretty straightforward. So then we had to find the locations. And again, the beauty is, it's such a simple idea. As long as these flippers are sort of infecting an environment, it's an ident. We try to avoid things like the Xbox job that we did. So that's a good example of what we try not to do, if at all possible. We don't think it's a good solution to make an ident that is specifically, this one's movies, this one's games, this one's food, I don't know. We think that's bad practice because it can't run and run and run forever. When you're doing a rebrand for a channel, it should have the legs to be able to run and be refreshed every year if they've got enough money to. And it's just, once you've set it, it should be able to just roll and roll. So it's important to us that something's versatile and you don't get too specific with it. So it didn't matter what the locations were as long as they were British. Channel 4 they were conscious of it being too aspirational, so they wouldn't let us do anything that was too kind of middle class, Shoreditch cliche. So we struggled because we're all middle class Shoreditch cliches. But we just kind of went out and with a location manager and found a bunch of locations and made the idents really. And it's not, I could make up a load of bullshit about there's a deep meaning to it and stuff, but there's not. We thought it'd look pretty. So here are the idents, all shot in December as well last year. So we just look how lucky we were with the weather in December in the UK. by Clock Opera, who are going to be quite a big band, I think, in the next year or two. So I'm going to quickly jump to the making of, because we're running out of time. So this movie sums up the whole process of what I've just spoken about and gives it a nice lifestyle slant. So I think that kind of proves that I think it proves that mainstream doesn't have to be shit. Quickly, this is, probably shouldn't be showing you this, but we're going to Iceland next week. So this is being made at Jason Bruce Studio at the moment for real, and we're going to go to Iceland and shoot it in various locations. I don't know what's going on there. I'm just going to really, really quickly, in a couple of minutes, I've run out of time. Right, here we go. This project, I just want to quickly show you how we arrived at this solution. This is one of the most recent rebrands we've done. Again, Channel 4, but this was another way of watching Channel 4. It's called 4/7. It's somewhere in between TV on demand and normal TV. It's based on Twitter. The most discussed social network programs end up being lined up, so it's kind of a best-of thing based on the most discussed. So it's an interesting concept. We came up with this, again, super simple idea. Anything wrapped around a corner, a 90-degree corner, was 4/7. As you can see, the logo is based on a corner, the 7 on the side of the original 4 logo. And we did all the OSP. You can imagine how that looks. It's grey walls. The clever thing with that was the on-screen presentation system was time sensitive, so it'd get darker as the day went on. But we wanted to turn it into real life as well and shoot real locations with this treatment. So we did some tests to develop the technique. So there's the original test from the studio. Just shot with a DSLR, like that. So it's based on, you shoot an arc, 180-degree arc, as long as you're locked onto a point, you just use either end of the arc and split screen it, and you get that. So yeah, if you had 2 cameras, it'd be a little bit easier, but we got the biggest motion control rig in the UK and went and shot these. This one's my favourite. So we patched up the seam in the middle and sort of offset it, but there's very little post in these. This one does have a lot of posting because we couldn't get a motion control rig big enough. So we went in a helicopter and shot the plates and then mapped it onto 3D geometry. That is actually Spaghetti Junction, just outside Birmingham. But this one, quickly, super quick, is a good one to round it up, because Channel 4 obviously good client, let you get away with stuff like that. Like, not many clients would let you have a logo that is that subtle. Nokia, they asked us, I think it was last year or 18 months ago, the opening do-do-do-do-do hand thing. They wanted to redo it after 19 years, and we were asked to do it, so it was like, amazing, thanks very much, yeah, we'd love to. We did loads of development, it could be this, it could be that, it was all really exciting. There were lots of back and forth rounds, and it was going to be amazing, it was going to be the best thing that ever happened on a mobile phone. But you can't win them all.